Hey, fool, this ain't no football game.
Emma's a pimp!
Wait until the Reaper takes my life.
Lucky for you, you are right where you need to be. So sit back, relax, and turn up the volume on your streaming device. Johnny Ballgame, Sir Poops-a-Lot, and the Fantasy Reaper are about to deliver humor and fantasy gold at the same time. Crush your opponent with a smile. It's Fantasy Sports Island.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Island.
What's up?
What's going on, fellas?
I wanted to give the illusion that I was frozen, but I got like zoomed or teamed or whatever you call it. Like, because it's always like some really bad. Like... Anyway, what's going on, boys? Let's talk football.
Let's talk a little football. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Island. I'm the Fantasy Reaper. We're on a Wednesday night hang with my boys, Johnny Ballgame.
What's going on? What's going on? Welcome to Wednesday. We don't do Wednesday shows very often, but for you guys today, you get a Wednesday. You're welcome.
And Tony Sir Poops-a-Lot.
What's up? Good to see you guys.
Oh.
So Tony and I made a trade, Johnny.
You did? What'd you do?
We made a trade yesterday. It's a pretty big one, actually. Tony?
It is big.
Tell the world what we did.
I gave up the number one pick and his amazing backup. See, I'm bringing up my guys first. I gave up Taylor and Dion. They're both slightly banged up, but I think Taylor's just about ready to go.
Sure.
Chuck really needed somebody. All his running backs are on bye.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, I'm giving the Reaper, making his team better. He's already
because he needs help. Yeah,
already in first place.
Thank God. Yeah.
Well, you're not in first place in that league.
I am not. No.
And I get Dalvin Cook and Madison. So he just Dalvin Cook drives Chuck crazy. And because I love the kid, I'm like, all right, I'll take Dalvin Cook off your hands.
I feel like you're a glutton for punishment.
It's because I'm tired of listening to him bitch about Dalvin Cook.
I mean, I don't doubt that. That is actually. I buy into that piece of it.
I actually think he's getting the better running back so far. I think Dalvin Cook's like RB11 and Jonathan Taylor's like RB23. So
worth the number one pick. So worth it, wasn't it?
And we also able to trade each other's handcuffs too. So we kind of protected ourselves. I get out of the bye hell. Yeah. I think Tony got a little bit of an upgrade at the running back position, but I think it's fair both ways.
I think so. I like it. I don't hate that trade. I think if all things being equal, both of those two people are super talented, both run really hard, both catch the ball. Both of their backups obviously are very capable of scoring points too. So I like the handcuffs. Chuck, I think you're going to end up getting a little bit better because I feel like the Colts are starting to figure out how to use the running game again. Like I think they kind of forgot. Like if you saw what Dion did this last week. So, Chuck might have bailed on Taylor a little bit too much, but then again, Taylor gets hurt, and so I don't doubt it. What I like about Cook is I think you're going to start getting more passes. I think Cousins is going to start going to him more. So I think you're both going to like the trade for different reasons, and so I think it's a really fair trade.
Yeah, I mean, if Taylor returns to form, then I'll definitely get a little bit of the short end. But we're talking that it's almost the middle of the season already.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know how much I risk to lose.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing: if Cook returns to form too, I don't know that it's the points are probably point for point, right? At that point, so,
right?
So it's talent for talent, handcuff for handcuff. I dig it.
Pretty fair. All right. Let's talk about tonight's show, Johnny.
Sure.
First of all, what should the folks do to help our algorithm?
Well, here's what I'd do. And again, it's just me. You guys do what you want to do. I'd hit the bell. I'd like us. I would do everything I could to make sure I got this information every single week. That's what I'd do.
You know what else you could do is comment on our videos. That helps as well. We'd like to know what you think of the trade between Tony and I. Who won that trade, guys? Who won that trade? What are your thoughts?
We want to know what you think about Tony's haircut. If we're being honest, I want to know. I want the messages in there.
Pretty pointy.
Yeah.
Nobody's seen Tony's hair in like 2 years.
Honest to God, I forgot he had hair. I thought Tony was bald. I'm not gonna lie. I had no idea. I thought the hat was one of those like had hair attached to it.
Yeah.
And he was actually bald.
Well, you guys haven't seen the hair on top of my head, but
Now that's for a whole nother show, John.
That's a different podcast we do.
Yeah.
It's another thing.
So, anyways,
yeah, let's talk football.
Let's talk football quick.
Speaking of weird, can we just talk about the Redskins thing that's going on right now? What are we doing?
is that a team?
Oh, that's an excellent point. Thank you. The Commandos. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate you reminding me that they changed their name to the Hideous Commanders team. But you got Jim Irsay. When Jim Irsay talks out about your team and you being a screw up, I'm just saying, like, there's opportunity for us to just maybe rethink what's normal in the world. And this guy apparently, degrades people in his group, is awful to women, awful to everybody. He was the one on the receiving end of the John Gruden racial emails. No one said anything about that. And then it turns out he's also been cheating the league.
No big deal.
Whatever.
Some other weird shenanigans going on, John. I don't know if you heard this. This just came down recently. Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys, was talking to Robert Kraft at their meetings, and I guess he told him not to F with him about the contract for Roger Goodell and the incentives that are laced into his contract. He feels like we need to give more detail on these incentives and what qualifies and constitutes a bonus for the commissioner. And Robert Kraft kind of disagreed, and he was like, don't F with me. Don't F with me. We need to do this. We need to put this in the contract and stipulate exactly why he's earning the amount of money he earns for his contract. I don't know if you heard about that. Yeah.
I did not hear about that.
That just came out in the wire just a few minutes ago. So a lot of crazy stuff going in the NFL, man.
Wacky.
A little bit of a shady business.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew that a business that exploits men for money would be shady? It's crazy. We love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it, but it's really do.
All right, let's talk about fantasy football. And tonight's show, we're going to do our news and notes. We're going to talk some trade rumors that are coming down the wire. We're going to talk some waiver wire GMs for week 7. We're going to talk about surprise fantasy players and teams so far this year. And we're going to finish it up with some burning questions that I have. We haven't done that segment in a while. All that packed into one show, Johnny. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready for this. For the burning questions, though, if you take penicillin, it clears that shit right up.
It can.
Apparently Tony's got something he'd like to say. There's other medical treatments.
On that note, let's talk about some news. All right.
Yep.
Starting with the Washington Commandos. Starting quarterback Carson Wentz had surgery on his right pinky finger and will now be sidelined for the foreseeable future. They're estimating about a month. Taylor Heineke's back, Johnny. He'll start Sunday at the Packers. Is this an upgrade at quarterback for fantasy purposes?
Nope. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want more extra?
No, can you elaborate?
Do you guys remember all the Redskins receivers that really went off in fantasy last year? Do you remember all those guys?
Yeah.
Oh, there wasn't any? You know why? Because Taylor Heineke was the quarterback for 15 of the 17 games.
Yeah.
Also, because they weren't the Redskins last year, they were the Washington football team.
Right,
so
right.
Technically speaking, 0 wide receivers from the Redskins went off last year. You'll get it, Johnny. Don't you worry.
3 years from now, I'll be like, it's Commanders, jackasses.
I would like to say, though, for one of their receivers, McLaren, I think this does help. Because last year with Heineken, I call him Heineken like the beer, He did throw a lot to McLaurin. It was his favorite target. So this could be good for him if you're a holder of McLaurin.
Yeah, but even where did he finish though? Like even
20,
McLaurin.
25.
McLaurin was the 25th receiver. All right, that's pretty okay.
Yeah, now he's going to finish 50th. So
yeah, I guess anything will help. Yeah,
a little bit.
All right, Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott is ready to return for the Lions game this Sunday. Tony, what does that mean for the Cowboys and their receivers?
Well, I don't know. I was looking at stats today on that because I got some shares of CeeDee Lamb, and it's not like the past couple seasons CeeDee Lamb has shown huge outlandish stats from meeting up with Dak. I mean, he's had some decent games with Rush too. But come on, we need Dak back. We need him back for the sport, for the game, and for fantasy. So I'm looking forward to it. I think he's going to be, I would even start him. I know it's his first game back. He's playing the Lions. They're like almost the worst defense in football. So it should be a pretty good game for Dak.
It's a nice game to come back to. I will say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I like it for Gallup too. It opens up the field. I think he has, obviously Dak has a better arm than Cooper Rush or Elmo, as we like to call him. So I think the ball goes down the field a little bit more. Yeah. And I think that's good for Gallup. I think it will open things up a little bit more for CeeDee Lamb, but it's best for Dalton Schultz. If he can get healthy, Dalton Schultz had a connection with Dak. So if you have Dalton Schultz, or if he's out there on that waiver wire, go scoop his ass up.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm with you. I will say it's probably the end of Noah Brown. Noah and Cooper had a nice thing. And even over the last couple of weeks with Gallup back, you were starting to see a major decline with Noah Brown. You can probably drop Noah Brown and feel pretty safe about it.
Good call. All right. Carolina wide receiver Robbie Anderson was seen arguing with assistant coaches on the sidelines on Sunday's game. He was ultimately kicked out of the game by his own interim coach, Steve Wilks. After the game, the Panthers decided they had enough of Anderson's antics, and they traded him off to the Cardinals for a 2023 6th-rounder and a 2024 7th-rounder. Having said that, the Cardinals actually were in need of a wide receiver because they learned that Hollywood Brown's foot injury will see him miss at least a month, possibly 6 weeks. So perfect timing. They're getting Hopkins back. They now trade for Robbie Anderson. All I want to know is, John, does Robbie Anderson fit in this mix, and will he be productive as a fantasy player?
I think he will. So the receivers coach is Sean Jefferson, who was the receivers coach for him when he was with the Jets. And so there's a little bit of that inside, like Sean's like, yeah, well, we'll take him for sure. So that was also the best Robbie Anderson's ever played, is when he was with the Jets. So I think they needed somebody. I actually think I like what's his name, Rondale Moore better than I like Robbie Anderson. I like him more because it's his name. But I do like him a little bit more. But I think he'll fit in okay. But I mean, he's kind of the AJ Green now. You know what I mean? Like, he's a little bit older receiver that's been around for a while. He's got the little moxie. And so I think he'll be the third receiver in that group. I think Rondale will be the second.
One thing I wanted to mention, so that opens up some receiving targets in Carolina. One guy I want to keep my eye on, if you're in Dynasty, or even if you're on a deep bench league, you might want to take a look at Terrace Marshall. This is a guy they drafted with high draft capital a couple years back. They were a little disappointed with him, but now he gets another opportunity to step up big and fill a role. So I'd like to see what he could do. Tony, do you have any interest in Terrace Marshall?
Not yet. I'm not even going to start. I have interest, but not for my team personally. I want to give it a little bit of time, week or two, and see what's up. If I have some depth where I might be able to stash him away, he's interesting, but I'm not jumping on the waiver wire to grab him right now.
Yeah, I think it's a wait and see approach. If you see him get 6, 7, 8 targets next week, maybe then go pick him up.
Yeah.
I think if Robbie Anderson were getting like a crap ton of targets, right, and we'd all go, well, he's clearly going to replace those targets, I'd be more interested in Terrace Marshall, but nobody's really getting a lot of targets except for, even CMC's not really getting that many targets there. We don't even know who the damn quarterback's going to be this week. So
yeah, and if it's PJ Walker, he doesn't even look down the field. He's just throwing,
he's a check down
passes.
Charlie.
Yeah, he is. He really is. All right, Steelers quarterback Kenny Pickett is in the concussion protocol, but now practicing. And Mike Tomlin says he believes that he will be starting for Sunday Night Football versus the Dolphins as long as he clears the final protocol hurdle. That's good news. I'm very happy to hear that because especially if you have Pickens, Pickett to Pickens is a thing. So what do you think, Tony? Does this help? Also, is the Claypool hype. What we saw last week, Claypool had a big game. But most of the catches came from Mitchell Trubisky. So now if we go back to Pickett, what do we think? Is Claypool even worth an ad?
I don't think so either. I really don't. He looked good. But like you said, it's the whole Trubisky thing. I don't trust the wide receivers there. The quarterback situation is so risky playing them. You guys know one of the leagues I keep starting Deontay Johnson. It's all I got. And it's just like I'm biting my fingernails watching that game, hoping he's going to get some targets. So I personally would stay away from that receiving group right now. I don't trust it.
It's like the WRBBC.
Yeah, I will say this though. Claypool's gotten 6 targets the last 5 games each, at least 6 targets, a little bit more. I feel like he's a sneaky. Like I actually added him in a league today. I added him because I thought, you never know. Also, there's a little bit of a hint of a trade rumor.
That's what I was
deadline, and I'm thinking Claypool goes someplace else. They're not going to keep that guy on the bench. They're going to use him. So for me, it was a little bit of a stash, more of a strategic stash. But I might have to use him this week because of buys and injuries. So
yeah, I feel like they're showcasing him because they're trying to move him. That's what I think. Because Calvin Austin is coming. A lot of people don't know about Calvin Austin, but they drafted him as well at wide receiver. He's a speedster. They like him a lot. He's coming back from injury. And just as he's getting ready to be on the roster, active, Claypool, the trade deadline, we'll see what happens.
We'll see.
All right. Melvin Gordon had a conversation with Nathaniel Hackett today about his lack of usage in the second half of the Broncos game. He said he got more clarity on why he didn't get a carry in the second half, and he accepted the explanation. Okay, John, I'm just going to say it again. What in the F are we doing in Denver? Melvin Gordon, when we had Javonte Williams, had to split carries with Javonte. They had to. They made that a priority. They're splitting carries. Then when Javonte goes out, now you don't even want to use Melvin Gordon at all, and you want to pick up a guy off the scrap heap.
Let's get Latavius in here.
Right?
he has been killing it the last couple of years.
Yeah. This guy's going to get fired. He is a freaking moron.
It's almost like he's trying to. He's almost got like he's on the Urban Meyer plan. Right. Not quite as bad, but he's getting there. He's making some really dumb decisions.
And if you watch that game, everyone knows the Chargers are one of the most vulnerable teams against the run.
Yes.
So what do? They come out and throw the ball 10 straight times. And Russ looked good the first quarter, okay? Then from there on out, the rest of the game, they could not complete a first down, and they hardly ran the ball at all. Going completely against what
when their quarterback had a torn hamstring, apparently.
And that too. And your quarterback was already injured and has a new injury.
Yeah.
And you're playing in a tight game, close game. You'd think you'd want to run the ball against the Chargers. But nope. And Mike Boone, one more thing. Mike Boone was very effective in the game before Murray came on, and they didn't want to use him hardly at all in this game. I just can't make sense of this backfield or the coaching staff. It's a joke. All right. Last quick note, Deshaun Jackson has signed with the Ravens. He'll get his 170-yard touchdown, and then he will be hurt the rest of the season. So will you have him in your lineup, John, for that 1 week?
Just this week.
Probably.
I don't think it'll be this week. I think it'll be next week. But so I'll have him in on the second week. I'll make sure I pick that. No, I'm not. I don't want any Deshaun shares. Thank you very much.
No, they're desperate for a deep threat, and I think Bateman's coming back soon. He might even play this week. I'm not even sure why they wanted old man Jackson, but don't go picking him up on the waiver wire because it will be a wasted draft pick.
I literally just said I might have to start Claypool because of injuries and bye, and I don't want Deshaun Jackson. That's what I'm saying to you. I need you to hear what I said and read between the lines.
All right, let's talk about some trade rumors that are going around the NFL right now. Start with the big one. Everyone knows Panthers are 1-5. They look like they might be tanking for first pick, and Christian McCaffrey is their best player. So, of course, he's in trade rumors. The Panthers restructured McCaffrey's contract, by the way, in March, pushing his base salary to around the minimum. That means a team acquiring McCaffrey in a trade would owe him a prorated version of only $1.12 million this year. His contract becomes more complicated next year with a salary of $11.8 million, but it's not guaranteed. So,
ooh, I didn't know that.
Knowing that, pretty much any team, if they really wanted to get McCaffrey, could fit him in their cap. And I'm hearing Rams, 49ers, and Bills as the main suitors. I want to know, Tony, what you think. Where's McCaffrey going to end up, and where's the best fit?
You're asking the wrong guy. I think that guy could really fit anywhere. I mean, when we're talking about in a fantasy standpoint, you know, I want him to go somewhere where the QB is going to throw to him, of course. I think he would be a great fit in Buffalo for that team. I don't think he'd be a great fit in Buffalo for our teams in fantasy. But I'd love to see him go to Buffalo. I think he'd be effective there. I think they would. That would be it. That's it. That's all they need.
John, what do you think?
I feel like he's going to be with the Rams. I feel like they're going to pull the trigger because I think they're starting to get a little panicky. I mean, I know they just won, but they didn't do it great in a convincing fashion. Now they've got issues with Akers. They've got, Henderson's not exactly blowing it up after him. They don't even have Jake Funk on the team anymore. He's with the Saints. So, I think he's going to end up with the Rams. Great
segue, John, because that was the next guy I was going to bring up is Cam Akers. We don't know if it's a mental thing, a physical thing, but he's taken some leave, and the Rams are kind of handling business as if he's never going to play another down for them. And so, of course, they want to trade him. Perfect trade candidate would be the Carolina Panthers because they could give him McCaffrey and they could get Akers back in return with some draft capital and have a young new running back to groom, I guess, for maybe next year. So that could be something that works. I really hope he doesn't go to the Rams, though. They don't utilize the running backs correctly.
I think you're right, though. I think LA is going to do whatever it takes to get him at this point. I really do. And also they don't want the city and the organization to look bad. You just came off the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Your team has actually improved besides losing Von Miller. So they're going to do whatever it takes to get this guy, I think. Unfortunately.
Also, don't forget the 49ers were mentioned as one of the teams that are going after him. The Rams do not want their division rivals to get McCaffrey.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay? Absolutely.
So
if I'm McCaffrey, though, I don't want to go to the 49ers. When's the last time they kept a running back healthy? I mean, think about how many injuries have happened to their running backs. I don't want to be anywhere near that place.
But that is the perfect offensive line. If Christian McCaffrey was thinking like how many yards he could get, that offensive line is a beast, and I think he would be very effective there. Would he stay healthy? Well, that's another whole story. He never stayed healthy in Carolina, so I mean, what's the difference? But I think the best place for Christian McCaffrey is to stay in Carolina for fantasy purposes. They use him the most because they absolutely depend on him, and that is where he has the most value in fantasy. I don't know, like you said, the Bills he could be explosive in Buffalo, but they don't use their running backs as much. They have Josh Allen and Diggs and Gabe Davis. They have all these weapons.
Seriously, I don't want him to go to the Bills. I feel like it'd be a waste of a pick. I don't think Singletary is a bad running back. I think they're going to start using Cook in the back half of the year. I just picked that guy up in a league or two because I'm doing a speculation pick with him because I think they're going to start utilizing him. I don't think he goes to the Bills. I think he goes to Rams or 49ers, one of those two.
I'm really hoping he just stays put.
Yeah.
And they're asking for at least one first-round pick. Some are speculating they want 2 first-rounders. If that's the case, no one's going to come to that price tag.
There's a place nobody's talking about, but I would not be surprised if he ended up. Do you want to hear it?
Kansas City?
Nope.
Okay.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay.
Touchdown Lenny's not doing it this year. That guy's not getting it. He's not even averaging 4 yards a carry. I mean, it's just not doing it there. Brady wants to win another Super Bowl. He needs to win immediately. They're 3-3. I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility. Christian McCaffrey going there reinvigorates an entire team. It makes everybody forget about all the Brady shit that's gone on. And now suddenly they're relevant again and really poised to make a nice run. Imagine CMC in the backfield, those receivers on the outside with Tom Brady as a quarterback.
And Tom Brady dumps it to the backs.
Yeah,
that would be good for fantasy. Okay. Yeah. Kendrick Bourne in New England.
Sorry, never heard of him.
Yeah, he's hit the doghouse, and speculation is they're going to try to trade him. But maybe they've been trying to trade him all year because he's not anything special, but he is a deep threat. Do we think he gets traded?
No.
Do we care if he gets traded?
Yeah, I don't know. A, I don't think it matters, and B, I don't know who wants him.
All right, how about Mike Gesicki at tight end for the Dolphins? He just had 2 touchdowns. Nice game. Could be a showcase type of, right before the move. What teams could use a Mike Gesicki?
Everybody. Honestly, I think that guy's a really talented, underused tight end. I'd love the Bengals to get him, the Bears to get him. I mean, the Bears. Please.
Hey, there's another
Please.
Tampa Bay thing.
Yes.
I think Brate's going to be out for a little while. I like that kid.
𝐂𝐁𝐿.
Yeah, whatever that guy's. I like him, but I don't know. Yeah,
Gesicki's an immediate upgrade.
Yeah.
We've already talked a little about Chase Claypool, but there's rumors that he's going to the Packers. That would be interesting. Chase Claypool.
Oh my God, that makes my pickup really sound nice.
Yeah, Dodgers.
Yeah. God, you just made my night. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, that's a rumor going around. Also, the Chiefs restructured Travis Kelce's contract to free up cap space for the season. So there's a lot of speculation they did that so they could go out and get a receiver because their receiving core has been a disappointment.
Yeah, Claypool would fit nice there too.
Claypool would be a guy that I think about. Also, Beckham Jr. is a guy they've speculated on who's getting ready to come back from his injury. So that's a thought. And one other, this team basically wants to trade all their wide receivers because they all suck. Kenny Golladay, Darius Slayton, and Kadarius Toney are all on the trade block for the Giants. The Giants have been trying to trade Darius Slayton since last year. Kenny Golladay, nobody's going to want that corpse. And Kadarius Toney can't stay healthy, and they're just done with him. Kadarius Toney was not drafted by this new regime. They don't like him. They want to get rid of him. Wan'Dale Robinson is their guy. So do we think any of these 3 guys will move?
Somebody will take a chance on Toney, I think.
I agree.
I think they will too. He's my favorite guy of the group then.
I think the other 2 guys will stay put because nobody's going to touch Kenny Golladay. That's a joke.
No.
And Darius Slayton is just a jag, right?
Yep.
All right. Those are the trade rumors.
Waiver wire gems.
Now let's do some waiver wire gems, guys. These are guys we're thinking about picking up off the waiver wire this week. And I got some names. You guys can tell me what you think. My first one that I thought of, I haven't picked him up yet, but I have a close eye on him because Saquon Barkley got banged up again last week, hurt his shoulder. He's dealing with an injury. Matt Breida. He is the legitimate handcuff. What do we think?
Necessary.
Yeah, if you have him and you didn't back him up with a Matt Breida, you're probably kicking yourself right now.
And look, I mean, he's out there in most leagues though, so you could still go get him. And I think it's a good in a deep league. I think it's a nice stash just in case. We all know Barkley gets hurt.
I grabbed him at the end of last year. He had a couple good games for me.
Yeah,
he's got talent.
Me too.
He's got talent. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about Kenyon Drake? Do we believe what we just saw, where he went over 100 yards on a touchdown? We hate the Drake.
I hate
the Drake. He does this every year. He has a game or two where everybody's like, oh, gotta have Drake. And then he lets us down the rest of the time.
Exactly right.
Dobbins is going to be back. Dobbins is the back to own in that backfield. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't own any back in the Ravens backfield because their best running back's a quarterback.
I think you're forgetting about somebody, guys. Gus Edwards is
Edwards is still good too. Yeah.
And J.K. Dobbins his knee is giving him problems again. Yeah. That's why the Drake went off last week because they
just kidding Dobbins.
Just kidding Dobbins. But do we have any faith that Gus Edwards can come in and he is the all-time yards per carry leader in Baltimore history. 6 yards a carry.
God, that's crazy when you think Jamal Lewis used to run for that team.
6 yards a carry. Okay, he's at 5. It's over 5 for his career. He averaged 6 the last time he was suited up last year. But so this guy, he's also a bruiser. He's a hard runner. He's the type of guy Harbaugh likes. I mean, are we totally like forgetting about Gus Edwards?
We are forgetting about Gus Edwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because honestly, since he got hurt about the same time Dobbins did. And
Same
for
time.
me, when he didn't come back, it was the same day, wasn't it? Or something like
It's
that.
the same week.
Same week, for sure.
Next day.
Yeah. And he didn't come back near as fast as Dobbins. And so I worry that maybe that injury was a little bit worse.
It was a little bit worse, but Dobbins has had more setbacks, and Gus Edwards is supposedly 100% healthy now. So
I like it.
all right. Deion Jackson, great pickup, Tony, this week. Tony went out and got him to cover him while Jonathan Taylor was down.
Super smart.
It was a fantastic move. He had 10 catches, played great. But is this a one-hit wonder?
Yeah, when you have Taylor, as long as Taylor's playing, unfortunately, it's a one-hit wonder unless they want to throw him the ball. And if they keep him in the mix, I mean, I don't know how injured he is right now. He's questionable, I think. It doesn't seem to be that bad, but he's awesome, dude. He's explosive. But I don't know how much he's going to get the ball.
Tony, you told me something in text too. You're like, it's almost like you want Jonathan Taylor, his ankle injury, to be a little more serious so Deion could play more, because he
I think he's that
so
good.
many balls.
Good.
He looked really good.
In and out of people. They couldn't hold on to him.
Yeah. He looked like what we thought Jonathan Taylor was going to look like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he was playing the part of Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
And JT
more of a passing role though than a running role, but that's good for fantasy.
But ran so hard.
He did run hard. All right. This guy is probably not on your waiver wire anymore. You had your chance last week. I mentioned it 2 weeks ago. Alec Pierce, wide receiver for the Colts, came through with a late touchdown. Wasn't targeted heavily in this game. It was Pittman time this week. But Alec Pierce has been really, really consistent the last few weeks. He's coming on. Matt Ryan likes him. If he's out there, go get him.
Absolutely.
Right. Wan'Dale Robinson, another guy I mentioned a couple weeks ago that I was eyeing. I picked him up in every league I could get him. He 3 catches for 30-some yards and a touchdown. Didn't play a lot of snaps, but was real effective when he was in there. They're going to ramp him up. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I like him a lot. I think he's the only receiver to own for the Giants. Giants are playing out of their mind right now. I mean, impressive. They're not putting up giant numbers or anything like that. But Wan'Dale's going to get you a couple touchdowns when you need them. So I think it's a good stash.
I see what you did right there. That he's not putting up giant numbers right there.
Hey-o.
Hey-o. Nice. What do you think, Tony? Wan'Dale Robinson, like if you had how much, like if you're in a fab league where you have to bid on players, how much of your fab money remaining would you use to scoop up Wan'Dale?
Right now, not a lot. I mean, I do like him. I haven't seen enough personally. I just don't. I still can't buy the Giants. I think that's the problem with me. Since I'm not sold on Danny Dimes, I'm not sold on the passing game. It makes me not really sold on Wan'Dale, unfortunately.
Okay,
that's just me.
All right. Ben Skoranek of the Rams has recently come on and kind of been the guy we thought Allen Robinson was going to be, right?
Yeah,
secondary receiver to Cooper Kupp. He's quietly getting a lot of targets, but do we think like Van Jefferson's going to come back and then Ben Skoranek will be kind of a bit player again?
That's what I think.
Yeah, I do.
So, I mean, if you're picking him up, you're picking him up just to play maybe 1 week during the buys.
Also, did you see Robinson this last week? Is it possible he's starting to get it?
He did have a good game.
Robinson had a good game.
Can't count him out yet.
No.
Speaking of bye weeks, do we know who's on bye this week, guys? It's the Buffalo Bills,
ridiculous,
the Minnesota Vikings, the Los Angeles Rams, and there's a fourth team that's really, really good. The Philadelphia Eagles. Those are your 4 teams on bye. That is a shit ton of fantasy relevant players, and I'm talking good fantasy players, mostly on my team in one league. But so this is bye-mageddon this week. This is the worst week for.
This is easily the worst. Yeah.
So these guys we're talking about on the waiver wire, now some of them may sound shitty. They actually could be useful for you just for this week. So Skoranek, don't just dismiss Skoranek for this week. Actually, he's on bye, so forget I said that. He's on bye too. Tyquan Thornton, wide receiver for the Patriots, had 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing, 1 receiving last week. Been quietly getting a little bit more play time. He's one of the fastest guys in the league. Do we think this is a thing?
It's hard to tell, man. It's like every week a different Patriots receiver goes off. Then you run out and pick him up, and then it's a new guy the following week, so you drop that guy. I don't trust any Patriot receiver.
You never have, and you never.
I never have. Not since Randy Moss. I have never trusted the.
When's Mac Jones coming back? Isn't he getting better?
It's imminent, but I don't think he's going to play this week. I think he's going to sit one more week at least.
Do you think when he does that they'll play the song "Return of the Mac"? Do you think that?
They might, but it's a legitimate. Zappy's been really good.
I know. There's a lot of talk.
A lot of quarterback controversy talk. I don't think there really is a quarterback controversy, but it's hard to bench Zappy after what he's done for them.
Zappy's played really well.
He's played better than Mac Jones this year.
The worst thing that can happen to them is they bring Mac Jones back, and Mac Jones sucks for the remainder of the year because then they will have a quarterback controversy.
That would be bad. Yeah. Tony brought this up briefly, but 𝐂𝐇𝐄𝐒 out in Tampa. Cameron Brate went down with his second concussion of the year. He's going to miss some significant time. This was a bad one. Yeah. 𝐂𝐇𝐄𝐒, rookie, he was really good in college. Tom Brady's targeting him when Cameron Brate is out. I think this is a sneaky good pickup. Tony?
Yeah, there's some chemistry there.
Yeah.
I watched them, two Sundays ago. They look good together. He was like, they were, on cue. So, yeah, that could be a good pickup. Definitely.
The thing is, too, the receivers are getting healthy there. So, if you notice, Godwin was looking pretty good last week. Mm-hmm. And then also Mike Evans is still, going down the field deep. And then if they can get Julio Jones right, he's deep on the other end. The middle's going to be wide open for 𝐂𝐄𝐒. And Brady loves to hit his tight ends. I mean,
loves his tight ends.
Hernandez. It just, it's on and on the list of
that guy was a killer, man. That guy was a killer tight end. That's what I did there. Hernandez killed people. That's why that's funny.
Gotcha.
We got it, Johnny.
Yeah.
We can't talk about that. Last tight end.
I feel like we can. He was found guilty in court. I feel like we can talk about it.
But he's not alive, so we don't want to talk bad of the dead.
Too soon. Sorry.
Robert Tonyan had a 10 reception game.
I love me some Bobby T.
Bobby T. So is this?
Sorry, good.
Since Cobb went down, okay, and he's probably going to be out a while.
Please never say since Cobb went down again. That's a different podcast.
But Tonyan might be the guy in the slot, is what I'm saying. Aaron Rodgers kid. Is this going to continuing? Is this going to continue for a while, or is this something that it's just Tonyan having like one off game where he catches 10 balls and next week he'll go back to catching 2 or 3 balls?
I honestly don't think so. If you actually look at his stats, they're getting better every week. And I feel like Tanyan's finally gotten to the healthy point, and Aaron's like, I'm going to throw to somebody that I freaking trust for a change. I mean, he obviously has no trust in his receivers. He's been saying it. He now is talking about simplifying the offense so his, dumb receivers can catch a ball or something. I don't think they're dumb, but that's what it sounds like when he says it. I like Robert Tonyan a lot. I own a lot of shares of Robert Tonyan, so I really hope that comes to fruition because it's starting to be now what I thought he was going to be at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I do too, but I think it was Sammy Watkins coming back?
Sammy Watkins coming back, yep.
I mean, Lazard's caught.
He'll play for 2 games and then get injured again. So
4 TDs, cool. I think. Lazard has 4 TDs the last 4 or 5 games. Yeah. But it doesn't matter. That's not standing out. You're right. I think the only thing I see is Tonyan. I mean,
what about Dobbs?
Dobbs was going to do something. He looked amazing. I don't know what happened. I mean, he didn't get many targets Sunday, did he?
Romeo, where art thou, Romeo? I mean, the guy he ran a lot of routes. He just
yeah. It's weird. It's weird over there.
Yeah. So 3 of the 6 games this year, Tonyan's gotten over 5 targets, which for a tight end at this point is really good.
Pretty good.
One of the games where he only got 2 targets, he caught a touchdown. So that target was one of those targets was really good. So I like him. I like him a lot.
All right. Next segment.
Surprise.
That's the name of our next segment. Surprise. We're going to talk about fantasy players that have surprised us in a good way or a bad way, or we could talk about fantasy offenses that have surprised us in a good way or bad way, whatever you like. Let's start with you, John. What fantasy player, team, whatever, surprised you so far this season?
I'm going to go, unfortunately, I'm going to start on the negative. Everybody knows I'm a positive guy, but I'm going to start on the negative side. I am really surprised at how bad Rashad Bateman is this year. I just, for whatever reason, thought he was going to take that Hollywood Brown rollover, and he has not done it yet. And it's just been a complete disappointment to me.
And injuries have not helped as well, but he should be back soon. Any hope for like a second win, John?
I hope. I mean, I have shares of him, so I sure hope he does. But yeah, he was supposed to be one of my main receivers. I thought I got him in a nice deal and a nice round, and been just real disappointed with him so far. So I'm surprised.
Tony, surprise? Who you got?
Should I go negative like Johnny or positive?
You can go negative.
Whatever you want, buddy. You do it. You do your thing, man.
You know what? I'm gonna go. This is okay. This is me. You guys are gonna disagree with this. I'm more surprised because I liked him. I liked him a lot.
Okay.
But he's way better than I thought he would be. You guys thought the opposite. And that's that little guy over there in that green uniform in New York. He runs like
Brees.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I should have listened to you guys. Now he was still pretty high on my list. But I even liked Damian better than him. Damian's a close second. Trust me. The guy's badass.
No.
But Brees, I'm surprised.
Brees, I'm not surprised. I mean,
No, he's not surprised.
I've been on his nutsack for like since the offseason.
I mean, Chuck's president of the Brees Hall fan club. So.
He's RB6 right now, but in the last 3 weeks, he is RB2. And you know who's RB1 the last 3 weeks? Austin Eckler. Let me formally apologize to Austin Eckler, who I was really talking shit about just 2 weeks ago, saying he's an RB2.
You sure were.
He's an RB2 is what I was saying. They like to mix in other guys, and then since then they just gone nuclear with Austin Eckler. He has been fantastic. He looks like old Austin Eckler from last year, and if you drafted him 3rd overall, congratulations, it's paying off again. It's amazing. Yeah. I cannot talk shit about Austin Eckler because when I do, I put my foot in my mouth. Also, a guy I want to talk about that surprises the hell out of me is Geno Smith.
Damn it, that was my next one.
Go ahead, John. Yeah. Tell me why Geno Smith was your surprise.
He's the 6th rated quarterback. I didn't think he was going to win the job. I mean, why was he a surprise? Because he's throwing passes in the NFL still. That's why he's a surprise. I mean, that guy is having a monster year. Other than this last week, which he still didn't have a bad week, but he just didn't need to go off like that. I mean, in our league, which is big, 49 the week before, 62 the week before that, 50 the week before that. I mean, this guy's been playing out of his freaking mind. That's why he's a surprise.
And the most ironic thing of all is he's a much better quarterback this year in fantasy and in real life than Russell Wilson.
Yes.
That was my negative, was Russell Wilson.
Yeah, Russell Wilson.
What a nice segue.
Yeah, Russell Wilson has been absolute dog crap. I question whether he's really hurt or if this is just an excuse to cover up the fact that the Broncos screwed the pooch on this trade. They're going to pay for this for years. It's a bad move. By the way, Russell Wilson, did you watch that game? There was guys right in front of him, wide open, and he's not even looking, and he's taking sacks or trying to run outside the pocket and do his thing where he throws it downfield. I think he's terrible.
It's terrible quarterback. I thought he was terrible last year.
He was terrible last year.
I was on this show last year saying I think the Reaper is going to need to come get Russell Wilson.
Oh, we got him. We got him, John.
It's time. It's time.
It's time.
Yeah.
It's time. All right. So let me cross him off the list. We don't need to talk about him anymore. I got 2 guys that are surprising me, like guys that we probably overlooked. One is Nick Chubb, and the other is Saquon Barkley in the backfield. Mm-hmm. These are your RB1 and RB3, respectively, in fantasy football. Who knew? Saquon could stay healthy and dominate. And who knew that Nick Chubb is RB1, guys?
That's pretty freaking crazy, man.
It's not going to last.
I still give him to week 10. That's my famous last words. But he'll start fizzling out then, I think. Yeah. Wow.
And the schedule's getting tougher as well. And you saw last week he wasn't very effective against a good defense. and he's got another good defense coming up this week. So I mean, right now it appears like Eckler's on the path to RB1, but let's not forget about Breece Hall. And Christian McCaffrey is right there as well. Yeah. And that's a surprise that Christian McCaffrey is still healthy.
That's both negative and positive, Chuck. So congratulations, you managed to hit the double on that.
Go ahead, John. Give me another one.
Here's what I'm a little surprised. I think I'm surprised about this. If you look at the top 10 wide receivers, I think we thought it's the exact top 10 wide receivers that you would have. Like, usually you go, here's our top 10 receivers, and it's never those people. The top 10 receivers: Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Marquise Brown, Deebo Samuel, and AJ Brown. Is there a surprise in there? Like,
I mean, you could say Tyreek Hill being third is kind of a surprise, going for a new team with Tua instead of Mahomes. I mean, I'm surprised.
But not major. It's not major.
Not a major surprise. Like, I look in there and I go, that's actually the surprise is there's no surprises in there. That never happens.
Actually, there is a surprise in there. You mentioned both of them, Waddle and Tyreek Hill, on the same team, being top 10 receivers with Tua and with Teddy Bridgewater and with a third-string quarterback.
You predicted that, though.
I did, but I thought Tua would be healthy. Yeah. I really did. And when he wasn't healthy, I thought, like, with Skylar Thompson at quarterback for 2 games, like, how in the world are these two both top 10s?
Well, here's how Waddle is. I mean, he had a 50-point game. So he did have 2 games where he had 5 points. So let's not get too carried away with Waddle, but he had a little bit of a bounce back.
Still top 10, though. Still top 10.
Yeah. And he's got his man coming back.
Here's 2 running backs that I'm extremely disappointed in, and I know you guys will agree. And I'm surprised, to be honest. Najee Harris and Jonathan Taylor. Both have been flops. I don't think there's any argument with that, but Najee more so than Jonathan Taylor. Najee's played every game, has gotten the volume, and is just not doing anything.
No, so bad.
Nothing.
At least Taylor can use the injury as an excuse as to why he hasn't produced in fantasy yet. And he did have, was it week 1? He did have over 100 yards, so he's got that. But Najee has done nothing. Absolutely nothing. Would you even start Najee Harris this week?
In the week of buys, yeah, probably. I mean, this is going to be a week from hell. But if it was a normal week, I don't know that I would.
It's gotten that bad, hasn't it?
Would you consider dropping Najee Harris?
No.
Not yet.
No, he's got too much talent. Like, I feel like they'll eventually figure out, like, you know what we should do? We should do what we did a lot last year and throw it to Najee because he's really good when you throw him the ball.
Haven't been doing that at all.
I feel like he's a pretty smart coach. I feel like he could figure that out pretty soon.
Tony, you got any more surprises?
Yeah, I mean, he's great, but I didn't expect him to be better, and that's Kelce. I can't get over, like, he looks like younger, man.
Yeah.
Barreling over people and fast still and great hands. I thought he was slowing down a little bit, and he is looking amazing.
He is fantastic. At some point, Father Time will catch up and take him down, but it's not yet.
No.
Yeah.
It's not yet. 2 tight ends. Go ahead, John.
I got a surprise. Josh Jacobs.
Yes.
Josh Jacobs has been on fire the last couple of weeks. He had a bye week this last week, but before that, 41, before that, 47 in our league. Those are some numbers now. It's like they're starting to go, yep, we should use that running back too.
Those are some big boy numbers.
Those are adult numbers for sure.
He continues this, he'll be a top 5 running back, which would be an amazing surprise.
I mean, he's 7 now.
He's 7 now.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm disappointed with a tight end. We were talking about how good Kelce was. The opposite. This is how bad these two have been. Kyle Pitts and George Kittle. Kyle Pitts is the biggest disappointment in fantasy football this year. Everyone that took him in the 3rd or 4th round, like myself, you are kicking yourself. It's disgusting. Some people took Pitts ahead of Andrews or even Kelce. Some people took Pitts first off the board for tight ends. And it's been just a nightmare. Is this going to change, John, or is it just Marcus Mariota?
He caught a touchdown this last week, so maybe he's going to start getting on. I think he was hurt the week before that. I think he got hurt in the game the week before that. So those numbers weren't great. The week before that, though, he had 13 points, which for a tight end this year is like the gold mine. So I think they'll turn it around. He's a big target. I think Marcus Mariota is starting to actually play pretty well. If you looked at him over the last 2 weeks, I think he's quarterback 11. So a little bit of a surprise there. And I think he's starting to figure out that offense. I think they're starting to rally around him. The Falcons are not the easy team I think everybody thought they were going to. I think they're 3-3 or something like that. So I would hang on to Pitts, or I would buy low. Actually, I would recommend buying low.
Make me an offer, Johnny. How about Chris Olave?
Super low offer.
He's playing this week, right?
Chris Olave's back. He's been kind of a surprise for me. He's been really good.
Oh, I thought you meant would I trade you Chris Olave for Kyle Pitts? I was like, no, I won't do that.
No. Chris Olave is my surprise wide receiver so far this year.
Yeah.
I really I'm impressed with the youngster. He's been really, really good. I had no expectations for him coming into the season, especially with Michael Thomas there.
Yeah.
But he's been good.
Good looking. Yeah.
Anyone else that we were surprised by before we move on?
One more.
Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
We talked about it last week was Miles Sanders. He looks rejuvenated. He looks good. He's not putting up monster numbers, but he's been a big help and decently productive anyway. He looks healthy.
Yeah. When he was playing Cordero, I'm a little surprised that he looks as good as he does again at running back. Which the weird thing is they're not throwing him the ball. I'm like, do you guys not understand who he is? He was a receiver. Yeah. So, yeah, hopefully they'll use him better when he comes back.
I have an honorable mention for a disappointment on the surprise side. Matt Stafford. He's been garbage. Yeah. He's locked on to Cooper Kupp. He's not seeing the field. His numbers are way down. He's quarterback 15 right now, which, wow. Some guys have already gone through their bye, too. So, per game, he's probably less than that. Yeah. That's not good.
No. Can we also mention related Robinson? Allen Robinson, huge disappointment.
Well, everyone knows he's a huge disappointment. It's a surprise. Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. All right.
We should move on because I could go on for another 10 minutes about this.
Seriously, yeah.
I agree. Yeah. All right.
Burning questions.
A little burning questions. Not burning STDs, John. Just burning questions.
I'm looking out for you.
Okay. All right. So these are 3 questions I have for you, and I have not consulted on you on these questions. These are coming from me only. You have no idea what I'm about to tell you. I want you to rap on this. Talk to me how you feel about these questions. All right. First, in our league, I've made some changes to Taysom Hill and what position he plays. My burning question is, should Taysom Hill be allowed to play tight end in your fantasy football leagues?
Yeah, I don't think so.
He's not a tight end. He doesn't play tight end. When's the last time he lined up a tight end?
It's not fair. You can't gauge that.
It's not fair. I picked him up a couple weeks ago with the thought of playing him, and then I thought, you know what? He's not a tight end. I would feel guilty if he, came in and did the Wildcat and scored 3 touchdowns. I dropped him and I picked someone else up. Yeah. And then he did just that. He got 3 touchdowns, over 100 yards rushing, also threw a touchdown. He had 4 touchdowns. Let me put it this way, folks.
Tight end, man.
Taysom Hill has played every position but tight end this year.
Yes.
He's a quarterback. He's a running back. He's a receiver.
Yeah. Where do you put him?
So what I've done in the leagues that I could do this, I changed his position to quarterback or wide receiver. And I could also make him a running back, which I'm thinking about doing. So you have the option. Yeah, you could play him at quarterback, wide receiver, running back, but not tight end. And Yahoo is the only league that doesn't allow commissioners to change positions for players. So in Yahoo, I just told everyone, don't play him at tight end or you'll get a 0. Am I justified in doing so?
Yeah, absolutely you are.
Yeah.
You have to be. The NFL doesn't even have it right, or the team doesn't. It's like you can't. He lines up for what, like 5 plays as a tight end? How do you label him as a tight end?
I don't even think he lines up a tight end ever.
I've never seen him. I've never seen him. Yes.
Yeah, as quarterback or as a gadget wide receiver. You never see him in the slot at tight end. It's stupid. Yahoo, if you're listening, let commissioners change the positions or change his freaking position to something else.
Right.
He's like the ultimate flex. Like if you could just name a player flex,
Yeah.
like all you're allowed to do is play the flex. That's
a good
who
idea.
should be.
You can play Taysom Hill, but only in the flex. I
Only
like
in the
that idea.
flex. Yeah.
That's a good idea. We will bring that up. All right, good idea. All right, second question for you guys. And John, I'm specifically talking to you because I feel like this is something you used to do.
You're talking to me.
You used to do this a lot, and you no longer. I don't see you doing it anymore. Why is the new trend in fantasy football leagues for teams not to make trades with each other? No one wants to trade. Why is that?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't trade a lot. And it's not that I don't trust it. I think I like my players and I like to make moves through the waiver wires. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you. I've never received that's not true. I used to trade with Tony. Like Tony and I made some trades. I made some trades with you, Chuck, in the past. Over the last couple of years, I haven't been that crazy happy with my team, but it hasn't been bad enough to unload them because I've always there's so much potential with them that I think I just
You nailed it. And I think that's the issue that we all been having with using some even like Taysom Hill as an example. They have potential, and it's very hard to take it. The risk seems far larger than the reward the past year or two. And
I'm always afraid someone's going to take the players that I drafted or picked up that I knew were going to be good, and I give up on them too early, and then someone else takes them and does good. And I can give you an example of this. Tony won our league one year when I gave up on Cincinnati Bengals quarterback and receiver. Do you remember trading me for that?
Palmer and Johnson. I remember
Palmer
that.
and Johnson.
I traded you.
You traded me for Palmer and Johnson. And they weren't doing anything for me. And I swear to God, the week you picked them up, from that point on, they were killing it. And you went off and you ended up winning. And I honestly, and if we look back, I guarantee that's probably the last major trade I made.
That's it. That's what I was going to bring up. I think you got hurt by that trade, and you just shut down ever since.
I think so. Yeah, I think I might have just had a mental breakthrough right here on the podcast, kids.
And I've made some bad trades, John. And I was talking to Tony about this. So last year, if you guys watched the podcast, you remember I had to dump Aaron Rodgers. I had to get him off my team. I got Josh Allen and I got James Robinson. And in return, I had to give up Eckler and Rodgers. And at the time, we thought, oh, wow, I made out on that trade. But if you look back on it, I actually got outscored in that trade.
Yeah.
That person I traded with won that trade. Now, I won, and I'm happy, but I didn't win that trade. And so I just like to wheel and deal. That's what fantasy football is about. It's roster construction. It's making trades. It's picking up people off the waiver wire. I mean, I don't want it to just stop after the draft and you just keep your team. It's boring.
My son, who also plays fantasy football, that kid trades every week. Yeah, I've never seen anybody wheel and deal like that kid. And by the way, he's won his league the last 2 years, and he's poised to do pretty well this year. Never. I'm always like, dude, can you just be happy with your team for a minute and a half? He's always like, what do you think about this? I'm like, we haven't finished this week, and the guy you're talking about just went off. Why are you thinking of trading this? Because I can upgrade here, and he's got this whole, it's a beautiful mind in there. And I think he's crazy half the time, but he does it every week. And I'm the opposite. And I think you just had me figure it out. I do think I did.
Updated. Keep us updated on how he's doing it, because that could be an interesting topic over the years. If he's proving that consistent trading wins championships.
If he does it, this could be his third year in a row he wins this league. And these people have all played together for 3 years, so it's not and they're all fair trades. I look at him and he asks me about him, and I'm like, I mean, it's fair. I don't know if I would do it, but it's fair. And
fascinating.
Trades every week.
For the people that play in your son's league, I have a message for you. When his son calls you to make a trade, hang up, because he's going to win the trade. He's obviously good at it.
He's winning a lot of trades. Yeah. And sometimes he goes completely against my advice. I'm like, dude, I've been playing for years. You might want to just. And he's like, no, that's fine. It's cool. Thanks for the advice. Does it anyway, and then he wins, and I'm like, God, I hate you.
All right. My last burning question. Why is scoring in general down this season in the NFL, And what does this mean in fantasy football for us? I want to discuss this because I believe the stat is that the NFL up to this point, week 6, has scored 100 or more less touchdowns than the same amount or the same time frame last year. So scoring is way down in the NFL, and in fantasy we've noticed that the scoring is way down. What's going on? Let's talk this out. What is going on, and how do you adjust in fantasy football to make up for this?
I have 2 theories. Tony, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go?
Well, I'm going to say one thing, that if you break down every team, the offensive lines are piss poor on more than a handful of teams, and that is vital. They are bad. That's my number one thing. Johnny, go ahead.
I know what his second theory is, but go ahead, John.
So I want to tag on to yours, because that was one of my theories. Is I think if you look at people who are bigger, the more athletic people are now going on defense. Like if you look at kids coming up through high school, if you look at college kids, the more athletic people who are also bigger are going to defense. They're not staying on the offensive lines. We're not getting as good at athletes on the offensive line as the defensive lines are getting. And that's starting to catch up with the NFL. So just think about that. The second thing, and you all know what I'm going to say, is,
oh yeah, do it, Johnny.
Nobody plays in the preseason. So the first 4 weeks to 5 weeks is like a preseason, and we're getting nothing but junk in these games. It's terrible. If you heard the rant I had last week, you know how I feel about this. If you look at the amount of touchdowns, I guarantee it was more the year before last year, because they played a little bit more in preseason. Every year we get less and less people in preseason. Every year it gets worse. In the first couple of games this year, we're going into week 7, and it still feels like we're seeing preseason rookie mistakes and offenses being run. We've already got offensive lines that suck. Nobody has cohesion because everybody continues to move everywhere and trade and free agency and all that crap. I think it all adds up, and it's all putting a worse product on the field.
Yeah. So I have 2 theories as well. One, I'm going to piggyback off what you just said. There was a lot of action in the offseason. A lot of teams made moves for big star wide receivers. A lot of quarterbacks and wide receivers that are really big name players move teams. They have to learn a new system, new coaching staff, etc. I think that has affected the overall scoring and cohesion of these teams. Second theory is I think McVay of the Rams has kind of ruined the NFL. Hear me out. Not because of what he does. He's amazing.
Chunky soup commercials.
Great coach, but young. And now the trend is let's go out and get the next Sean McVay. So everyone's trying to get the Nathaniel Hackett's and all these young, like new coaches that don't know what the fuck they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. We see it in Denver, horrible coaching. We see it in Los Angeles for the Chargers. Awful coaching, awful offensive play calling, and that produces a bad product.
Let me piggyback on that. How many coaching changes have we had over the last 2 years?
A lot.
12, 13, 14, something in that realm, right? Wasn't it like 6 and 7 or something like? We have no cohesion in the NFL. There's no consistency. There's no patience. There's no developing a team and watching them grow and building the way the Patriots did. There's the way the Steelers have done. I mean, Steelers aren't great this year, but you could tell they've got the bones that they'll be great again here, not too long. The way we're doing business right now is terrible in the NFL.
Yeah.
So how do we adjust? Go ahead, Tony.
I'm sorry, excuse me. A lot of young minds that they are. I don't know the terminology here. They're taking like these Ivy League kids and putting them in coaching positions where it used to be like the Maddens, and Madden was a genius in his own way, but he's like, do me a favor, go out there and break everybody's back. You don't do that anymore. You don't do that. So they're trying to like outsmart the other teams. Yeah. It's good in some ways, but it catches up to you. You can't always outsmart unless you have the talent, all the physical talent, the athletes.
Yep.
So as fantasy players, how do we react to this? Now that we know that scoring is down, it's harder to get fantasy points. What do we do as fantasy players to adjust?
So first of all, here's what as fantasy players, I was going to say as fantasy commissioners and league people who run fantasy leagues. Let me go there first. Knock off this no PPR or half point PPR. You have to stop. Like that's the most boring football ever, and you're going to lose people in your league. Start giving them PPR, start giving them full point PPRs. It's half point bullshit. Quarterbacks, give them credit for the full touchdown. What are you doing 4 points? Who's doing this? Why are we doing this? Let's just give them the credit for the points. The more points you score, the more exciting it is, the more fun fantasy football is.
Absolutely.
I think it's ridiculous. A couple of other things you can do, because injuries are so prevalent. If there is a clear-cut backup for that person, then maybe we start giving points for them, and you have that backup on your team. You get your starter injured, the backup's points go automatically. Like if you were smart enough to handcuff somebody and somebody got injured in that thing, I think then you average out those points for the backup and the original person, and we start giving points. We used to do something similar to that, Chuck, where we could pick 3 backups, which I always really loved that rule. I think this is, let's reward people for being smart, for drafting handcuffs, and for having backup with really smart backups on their team.
That's something we could bring back, actually. Like we used to have it if like you have the starting running back and you put in your lineup as your backup, the backup running back. So if the starter got hurt in the first half, then you could get the second. You get half of the second player's points. The backup you pick, you get half his points on top of the points you got from your starter. So that, but it's a pain in the ass for the commissioner because he has to manually add the points. I wish the websites would be smart enough to incorporate that in.
Yeah. And then the last thing I'd say is I would like to see combined yard bonuses for any leagues who do give bonuses for either 100 yards receiving or 100 yards rushing. Let's bonus those running backs that have maybe 80 yards and 50 yards. That's a good day. They should probably get a 5-point bonus for going over 100 combined yards.
Sorry for interrupting you all night. I apologize.
No, that's right. That's fine.
Because I'm actually not going to work tonight, so I'm always thinking.
Hey-o.
But yeah, I kind of like what you just said, and to capitalize on it, it gives the higher scoring does make it more exciting. It gives people who also are weaker, lower in the league, it still gives them an opportunity to score and stay somewhat competitive. So if you get 5 points for the 100-yard bonus, what if you also got 2 points for a 50-yard bonus? Or, just something, a small amount to keep people kind of.
Or a bonus that combined 100, right? Like
or 125. 125, you get 5 points combined.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah,
just some thoughts.
Yeah.
Right now, so as fantasy players now, I just want to talk about like how do you maximize your team knowing that scoring is down? So you got to be patient. You got to be willing to go out and pick up guys that you probably normally wouldn't pick up because like tight ends, for example, are just terrible. But if you can get a tight end that can consistently get you 8 to 10 points, that's pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
So you want to look for guys like that.
Like Njoku.
Yeah, Njoku.
I would never have drafted Njoku
right
last year, and I didn't draft him this year. I picked him up off the waiver wire. I liked him. He's actually the number 7 tight end.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because he's had like a Hawkinson type game. It's just he's been consistent. So you have to look at things a little differently. Try to get wide receivers like Jacoby Meyer that gets you 8 for 80 every week. He gets you like consistent. He's not getting you 2 1 week and 40 the next. Those are the guys that are winning right now, by the way. Like Tyreek Hill, Waddle, guys that are maybe not Waddle, but Tyreek Hill, guys that are consistently scoring each week. Cooper Kupp, Jefferson. Those are the guys that are winning.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, it's tough out there, but hang in there, guys, because I have a feeling the second half of the season is going to be a lot more explosive because of what Johnny said. They're getting their sea legs now. They didn't play a lot in preseason. They've now got 6 weeks under their belt, and the buys are coming, so they're going to get a week off, get fresh, and boom, then we're going to see some scoring.
I agree. I really think it starts this week.
Yeah, this week.
Yeah.
Even with all those teams off of bye, huh?
Yeah, because I think you're going to start seeing some other teams who started going, oh, holy crap, those guys, I forgot they had players. So a lot of those good teams are off. Now we're going to see some other teams get to do some things. So I feel like it starts this week.
All right, we'll see. All right, fellas, another fantastic show in the books. I'd like to thank my boy, Johnny Ballgame.
Thank you. Thanks as always, Reed, for running this thing, man. Love it.
No problem. And I want to thank my other boy, Tony Sir Poopsala. That can't smell good, Tony.
Not really, no. I've been sitting on it.
All right. We apologize that we couldn't get a show in last week. Life happens. but we did get a Johnny Ball Game rant to tide us over. We will be back next week, folks. So hit the like button, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Hit the notification bell because we do this almost every week.
Almost every week.
We do this every week, guys. When we
Pretty
can,
damn
okay?
close. Pretty damn
Close. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. We'll wrap up week 7 for you, and we'll look into week 8. Aloha.
Aloha.